So I keep going between videos and audios and blog and photography. And again, I'm not really quite sure how to capture this. And maybe I don't even need to, but part of the thing is that I'm in a different context than I was before when I was talking so much about mental health. And now in this different context, maybe I want to talk about something else with myself, and I don't quite know what that is. But in a way that is good, because that leaves it open to be anything. Whereas if I have the backdrop of I have to keep talking about things in terms of mental health, then it's going to sort of warp that which I see in that context. And in this context, I'm seeing in a way that I feel like somebody else altogether, at least partly. And I feel like that was part of why I was hoping, if you could call it hoping, to continue to share, because the point of just talking to myself without any real motive is just to see what I talk about with myself. And in this new context, maybe it'll be something else. And then in that way, it might show that even how one interprets oneself on a daily basis or moment to moment, or interprets oneself, is slightly context dependent. And how being in a beautiful space amongst nature, sunlight, it's sort of healing, and not in some mystical way. It's just allowing the brain to depressurize in a way. All the pressure of even all those interpretations and reframes and restoring and regaming that I did by talking with myself was all within the context of having to go to the psychiatrist and working as a peer support worker, and all of a sudden I find myself in this space where I'm not doing that stuff. And it's interesting how things shift. And this won't go on forever. So I guess part of it is talking with myself without motive, and for some reason I find it easier to do when it's a video as opposed to audio. Maybe because I can kind of see myself even though I look into the camera most of the time and not at myself. But in my peripheral vision, at least, I can see myself, so I feel like I'm actually talking to somebody. Whereas when I do audios, I don't really feel like I'm talking to somebody. I just feel like I'm making an audio, so it doesn't feel as organic. So I'm learning these things. And again, these are just aspects of continuing the self-dialogue process in a different environment. And so I've had some gaps because I'm sort of refiguring out how to have a consistent dialogue with myself, or if that's even necessary. But I feel like it would be good to make a few videos at least, to have a video journal in a way, showing myself changes over time in a way. If there are any, maybe there's none. Maybe they're for the so-called better or for the so-called worse, and it doesn't even really matter. And maybe if I change a lot or just a little, it's good either way. And maybe if I change a lot, it shows that who we are, in a way, is context dependent and is variable and changes and can change dependent on conditions. And in a way, when I return to my prior circumstances or similar, I am going to make sure I have a quieter place to live, which now I can feel comfortable doing since I avoided the psych ward last time. And I feel self-sufficient that way. So after this several month process of being in a beautiful place and around people who are having conversations other than mental health, after this process, it'll be interesting to see if I can integrate back into my old circumstances. And when I go back, I'll definitely have to keep track of myself in terms of how I'm doing. So in a way, it's just a different context, and learning how to be adaptive to different contexts and then readapt to old contexts that might not really be ideal but are part of the circumstances of life. So that's part of it. And again, I feel out of contact with my self-dialogue process. And maybe I'll actually continue to get more out of touch with it. And that's okay, because that just means I'm more in touch with nature. I'm more in touch with the people I meet. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if I don't really do that much talking to myself. So maybe it'll be more like a self-dialogue check-in. I have no idea. And it's probably not that interesting to talk about this process of seeing if the self-dialogue process will be renewed. In a way, it would be cool if it does get renewed to some extent, because if I do ever share this, it would be cool for people to know that you can get to a place where you can trust yourself enough to travel and put yourself in an ideal and beautiful place for a while and start to thrive. So I think I talked about attempting to thrive, and now I'm in a different situation where I'm more likely to thrive and less likely to attempt to end my life because I feel trapped and like life's not worth living. Well, that doesn't really happen to me. It's more of a supposed dissociation and terrifying thing. But I have all my safeties in place here, and I feel very comfortable and confident. Without feeling comfortable and confident, it just feels natural. And I haven't really been eating that healthy, and I'm hoping to actually, in this time here, get quite healthy and in shape, and not just in physical shape as in working out, because I find that kind of boring, but in shape by just walking through nature and almost just becoming adapted to this place and this land and getting to be outside a lot more. Where I live, it's actually snowing right now still, and it just keeps going and going and snowing. And so it's so nice to be here in the sun. Yesterday, I was at a beach and I saw a baby seal, and it just crawled right up to us and just kind of hung out, and it was sniffing my purse. And
I think you're right. He is hungry.
Yeah. He's like trying to kick your back.
Nothing in there. I'm sorry. There's nothing in there.
Well, you need to go back out into the ocean. The ocean's where all the fish are.
it it was just so cool. And there's been so many cool moments like that here. And so when that kind of stuff happens, there's not really any need to talk to myself because I'm talking with nature. And that's a better conversation than talking to myself. And if more of us were actually in touch with nature and talking with nature and speaking as nature and having a dialogue with nature, the world would be a different place. So